Hi everyone, Mark Cavanis here for Composer Spotlight on Jubilate Music Group's YouTube channel. And with us today is the wonderful and talented Anna Laura Page. Welcome, Anna Laura.
Thank you, Mark. It's good to be here.
Well, I'm so glad you are here, Anna Laura. And, you know, as we were getting ready to do this today, and I was thinking about our time together, I was thinking, good gracious, you know, I knew your name long before you knew mine because I was using your arrangements and compositions with church choirs I would direct. You know, I've done part-time church jobs, positions since I was in college. And so I'm just one of hundreds of thousands who've directed your music over the years, Anna Laura. So right out of the chute, let me say, it's a delight and an honor to have you here with us today. And so one of my favorite opening questions, or certainly especially regarding you, is tell us about your background, Anna Laura. How did Anna Laura Page become Anna Laura Page?
Oh, well, in the first place, I am from Louisville, Kentucky. You wanted to know where I was from. And my mom and dad were involved in a Baptist church, and I started playing the piano when I was 11 years old for church. And that's where I learned to improvise, because if the choir was late, which they always were, I had to keep the music going. So I learned to do that. And by 13, I was on the old mighty Hammond, and I got a lot of bad habits there, like playing barefoot and all that kind of thing. But at any rate, went to school, did a master's degree in theory where we had to write and do some things. And I don't know, I was just in a situation where I needed preludes, I needed calls to worship, I needed these things. So I wrote them myself. And I went to a workshop when we lived in Macon, Georgia. I went to a workshop in Albany, Georgia. It's not Albany, it's Albany. That's what they told me. And Sharon Lyon, the Baptist Sunday School Board at the time, was the clinician, and she heard me playing some free hymn harmonizations, wanted to know if I wrote them down, and I said no. She said, well, if you would, I need 3 next week. And that's how it started. She published the very first one, Crowning with Many Crowns, in that Church Musician. And that was my first publication.
How about that? Of course, we love Sharon, and she's such a wonderful, and she's been a great help to us at Jubilate Music Group editorially, and still is. And so just as a advisor and all of that. So yes, she started lots of careers, and so happy that she brought you to the party. And so, and that's a great story. Wasn't University of Kentucky you went to, by the way, for your bachelor's and master's?
I did both there. I did a bachelor's degree in music ed with piano and voice. And then I did a master's degree in music theory with a secondary organ. That's where I really zeroed in on organ.
So really your compositional career became, it's an example of necessity is the mother of invention, I guess you're saying.
Right. I needed those things, and so I just wrote them out.
And you know, Anna Laura, I think that no wonder your music, no wonder you are still writing, and you're still as relevant and marketable, if I may say that word, from a music publishing standpoint, as you have always been, because your feet are firmly planted on the ground. Right before, I will tell everyone, we started rolling our video this afternoon, we were talking about her church and how things are going there, and in terms of getting things back up to speed after the pandemic, and she's, you know, the bell choir director all these years. And so, Anna Laura, you keep your feet, you've always kept your feet firmly planted on the ground with knowing what the market, well, it's because you're in it doing it. And so, and we could talk a lot about your handbell work here today, because you at one point were the handbell editor for Alfred Sacred, and so
you started that handbell catalog, actually.
Absolutely, you and Jean Ann Schaeferman, right?
She did the choral, sacred choral, and I did the handbell. She was involved in sacred choral and then brought me into the handbell.
Right, exactly, excellent. And so again, that's a whole other story. How you still contribute to our handbell catalog to this day, which we're very grateful and love publishing your music in that way. So you've got handbells, you've got keyboard that you've written, you're editing, just edited a keyboard publication for us. And of a Stan Bethel upcoming publication, that's another story. He was one of your classmates in UK, wasn't he?
Well, no, he's younger than I am. I think I was gone by the time he got there.
Okay, I
But
couldn't remember if you
we
guys.
have a good time talking about UK. That's fun.
I'll bet. But speaking of all your work with Alfred Sacred, now of course part of the Uvalde Music Group, you wrote an anthem when Jean Ann was heading up Alfred Sacred. Creation will be at peace, and I want our viewers here to hear the story of how that anthem came about. And before you tell it, though, I'll tell everyone: Creation Will Be at Peace is the #1 all-time bestseller in the Alfred Sacred catalog. So literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of copies of that anthem have been sold over the years. So Anna Laura, I know that's gratifying to know that hundreds of thousands have sung it, millions have heard it. Tell us about the wonderful Creation Will Be at Peace.
Well, there's so many stories about that piece, but it started out, Oscar was president at Austin Peay State University, Clarksville, Tennessee, and we were having a big group of people at the house that night. It was a Thursday night, and the phone rang, and it was J. Paul Williams. He said, I've got this text here. Jean Ann needs it Monday night. Can you get it to me? Yes. So I wrote it the first time for The Way It Is, then the second time for just for organ, and then the third time, I don't know, there were several rewrites, maybe 2 or 3 rewrites, but we got that thing where it is now. And in the meantime, I meet this minister of music in Cadiz, that's Cadiz, Kentucky. I'm in an antique shop, a pouring down rain, and he's the only one in there. And when I said my name, he turned around and said, did you say your name is Anna Laura Page? And I said, yes. Well, he was the minister of music at First Baptist Church in Cadiz, and that's where Peggy Say went to church. Now, that's how I met her. And in the meantime, her brother had been held captive in Beirut, Lebanon. He was, I've got my notes here. He was with the Associated Press, excuse me. He was the chief Mideast correspondent for the Associated. So that's why they took him. And it was a big deal. If you remember, you probably don't remember. You probably were just in junior high. But anyway,
I probably wasn't even born yet. Believe me, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, and I do remember when this happened. You bet I did.
And so she was going abroad every time they would call her from Beirut or from any one of the peace conferences. And so when that piece became available right about her birthday in February of 1992, and she just found out he had been released. So we thought that she would be an appropriate person to dedicate that piece to, because she had worked for 7 years, almost 7 years, to try to get her brother released, and working with people like Ronald Reagan and Yasser Arafat and Mother Teresa. She met all of those people. It was an amazing story. So at any rate, that's how she comes into the picture and why that piece is dedicated to her. I have since found out that she passed away in 2015. She had moved away from Cadiz, and I lost contact with her. But at any rate, it was really an interesting story. There have been experiences like Navy SEAL came up to me in a reading session and said, with tears in his eyes, this is why I think this piece was a God thing, but they sang it at the dedication of the Holocaust Museum in Phoenix. They sang it up in Oklahoma City at that dedication service up there. They did it on the 50-year reunion at Normandy Beach. And things like that you give back. And this happens to a lot of people. But to me, that is really, really an interesting thing, and tells me that I'm not really the one involved in all of this. I think it's a God thing. I really do. So,
wow, that's a beautiful story, Anna Laura. It's a beautiful story.
But J. Paul gave me those words. I rewrote them a little bit on a piece of scrap paper that night when he called, with everything going on around me. And I'm so glad he called me. Yeah.
Oh, me too. And I'm telling you, Ann Laura, what a great backstory to that piece. You know, that something was born out of, unexpected circumstances, and then to dedicate it to Peggy Say was a beautiful, beautiful move. And then for you to get to know her, and on and on and on, and the
Yeah.
places it's been performed, just breathtaking. It really is, and it's so beautiful how you are attributing God's grace and his guidance to make this happen. Of course, that is the beautiful truth. And yet he used you as that vessel, and you were the perfect vessel for such a beautiful message and anthem. And J. Paul, of course, too, you know.
Yes.
But of course, I had the anthem orchestrated a couple of years. For the first time, it had never
Yes,
been
I'm so
orchestrated.
glad you did that.
Oh,
Thank
well,
you.
happy to do that. And our friend Stan Pethel did the orchestration. So
Yes.
those of you who might not be familiar with the piece, check it out and listen to the beautiful orchestration Stan Pethel did of it. But it certainly will endure, Anna Laura, for years to come. And so we're both so grateful to have that in our catalog. Few more questions before we wrap up our time today. What type projects? I mean, what have been your favorite projects in the past, and what projects? I'm throwing you a curve now. What are your favorite projects in the past, and maybe what are some of the projects you might look forward to doing yet in the future that you haven't done yet? Anything on the bucket list, writing wise, that you're thinking, or
Well, I love doing handbell music, but I think my first love is piano and organ because that's where I started. I love doing choral pieces for kids. I've been doing children's things for a while too, long back before I did adults. But I like it all. I really do, and I'm just open to do as much as I can. Right during the pandemic, I was doing a lot of the handbell thing. It was really like working a puzzle, trying to get 8 bells to play like a Christmas carol with just 8 bells. They couldn't put anything down. They didn't have a table. They were looking off of a music stand. But the piano does all the work.
yeah,
And it works. It comes out. And that was a lot of fun. But I don't know. I just like being busy and writing. I just love it all. And I'm blessed to be able to have the opportunity.
well, we love it too, Anna Laura, because again, I'm telling you, so many of the things you've, excuse me, written over the years are staples, and I've just used them again and again and again because they work. They work so beautifully, and they're so well crafted. And
Thank you.
absolutely, absolutely, you've struck that wonderful. You found that balance of well crafted and so usable. That it's not always easy to find that balance, but again, you have done that, Anna Laura. And as we kind of start drawing to a close here with our session, the year we've been through was certainly a big challenge for so many industries, and but certainly in the performing arts and church music. What words can you give to church musicians these days moving forward to encourage them to move forward and to make it happen again?
Wow. Well, I'll tell you, I think the main thing is to stay involved, stay current, keep up with what's happening, where things are going. Things have changed now since this last year, and try to be mindful of the fact that music has an enormous effect on worship experience for people in church. Um, it's just remember that and try to do what's needed. Try to stay involved in what you think is useful to that point. That's what I'm going to try to do. What I've been trying to do, and just try to stay current with what you do, but make it useful.
Hmm. That's great advice. That's great advice. Absolutely no, and so true. And I've I've often said we need to be leaders and get out there and do it safely, but do it boldly, so that we can lead the way to show them that choral singing is streaming will never be able to capture the wonderful sounds that we get. And I heard a group for the first time in a Lenten service. It was an unmasked, vaccinated choir. And when those 42 voices started singing, it was a moment that you
So
cannot
overwhelming.
get. Absolutely, you cannot get otherwise. And so that's what we need to do. Anna Laura, listen, this has been great, and it's so good to see you and to share a bit of your story with our viewers for our Composer Spotlight. And my dear, you are just so precious to so many,
Oh,
I know.
thank
And
you, Mark.
well, you are welcome to me and to all of us here at Jubilate Music Group. We just love working with you. I know Jean Ann Schaeferman, who also helps us out quite a bit. She just adores you, and with good
Well,
reason.
she is. She's right here.
Oh, I know. Indeed, she is. Indeed, she is. So thanks again, and we look forward to more exciting things from you in the days and years to come.
Thank you. I do too.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Amen. And thank you for tuning in to this Jubilate Music Group Composer Spotlight.